Welcome to the members of Parliament, ministers, stakeholders, supporters and special guests. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which we meet today. The Turrbal and Inaugural people pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging. I am Jamie Lee Lewis, your MC today. To get us started, I will run through the housekeeping. If we require toilets, they are outside in the foyer where you have tea and coffee. We have a short 30 minutes presentation sharing stories from 5 children and young adults who have travelled from around Queensland to share their stories with you. We kindly ask that all of your phones are turned to silent so we can hear them all share their stories. I'm 32 years old. I am currently an apprentice shop fitter. I also played for the Brisbane Tigers in the BMD Premiership with the dreams of playing in the NRLW one day. My parents found out I was profoundly deaf 4 days after I turned 1. I wear 2 cochlear implants. I was Dimitri's 5th child when she started here and Say Centre in a tiny little room, and I am grateful and honoured to be the MC today for the power of speech. I would love to share with you all a story that was my greatest highlight of 22 and even in my life. I was at a shop grabbing a few Powerade drinks before working a night shift up on the Sunshine Coast. After I finished in a self-serve checkout, a lady in a wheelchair and her daughter beside her stopped me and politely said hello. She said, "I would like to say thank you for wearing your cochlear implant in public. My daughter is deaf and has to wear cochlear too, but won't wear them in public because she's been getting picked on at school." Immediately, my heart broke. I looked at this little girl, who was probably 7 or 8 years old, and she was all shy and smiling. I said to her, "Darling, be proud of who you are. I have been wearing my cochlear for 28 years, and people like that are just jealous that we have superpower because we can turn ourselves off whenever we like." You should have seen the reaction on her face. She was smiling and looked at her mum with this surprised and happy expression on her face. I then said, "It's a blessing that we have cochlear so we can hear." I went over to her and gave her a big hug. Her mum was so thankful. I hope I made this girl day, and she starts being proud of wearing her cochlear. It made me feel proud that she has someone older she can look up to. Growing up, I never had anyone older and deaf that I could look up to. I am proud to be deaf and wearing cochlear because it has made me who I am today. I want every single deaf children and adult to know that we are definitely capable of anything we want to achieve, and don't let anyone or anything to stop you. This is why Hear and Say Centre is here to help every children and baby to learn, hear and speak with the best technology and therapy. Today marks the first Queensland Power of Speech. It celebrates incredible ability of babies and children across Queensland of all ages who are profoundly deaf to become powerful communicators and meet the world with full voice of their personality. We know that many people across Queensland are impacted by hearing loss. In fact, every second person knows someone who is. Thanks to technology and therapy, these children can go on to perform at the highest levels. I would like to welcome Greg Elferson here and Say CEO to speak.
Thanks, Jamie Lee. And my name is Greg Elphinston. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land here at Parliament House this morning. Pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. And thanks, members of Parliament, for taking time out of your busy calendars and joining us this morning. It's lovely to have you here to support the children and their families. Thanks to the families, the parents, to the children. Thanks for being here. And to colleagues and peers from the Department of Education and Children's Health Queensland, it's lovely to have you here for our first Power of Speech event. Including the babies. It's lovely to have the babies here as well. There were 2 reasons why we wanted to have this event. So the first was to celebrate the achievements of the children that you'll hear from this morning. It's a tough gig. when you get diagnosed with hearing loss, whether it's profound deafness and you're diagnosed at birth or you acquire hearing loss later on. You have to teach the brain to learn to hear, and it takes a long time to go through the therapy so that you can really articulate your thoughts so that you can be understood for who you really are. You know, and I struggle enough with it at age 50, so when I see an 8-year-old doing it, it's always very impressive. And the second reason that I wanted to really bring everyone together today is to acknowledge the role that the Queensland Government has played across different administrations over the years, and the amazing work that's done by the teams at Children's Health Queensland and Department of Education from day one when a child's diagnosed, and they swing into action and provide support to the families right through to the child's preparation for kindy and then prep and on through the school years and those important years. It's when you watch the clinicians working together across different sectors, it's quite amazing. It makes me really proud to be part of that and to see how effective it is and to see the outcomes it delivers. You'll see it today. Ultimately, we can put our reports together and you can see charts and graphs and stats, but it's lovely to have an event like this where we can see the humanity that's behind it and know that collectively these are the children that we're working to help, and these are the families that are part of our work together. So I hope you really enjoy today. We've seen the kids in practice, and it's brave that everyone showed up without tissues today, but good luck. And if you'd like to know anything more about Hear and Say, please don't hesitate to ask. But for now, I'll hand over to Jonty Bush, our member for Cooper, for her welcoming remarks, and then we'll hear from the stars of the show. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Greg. I too would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Yagara and Turrbal people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Friends, look, I've only got 2 minutes to speak, and so I'm not going to spend it acknowledging all the dignitaries that are in the room today. We can look around and we certainly know who's here. It's lovely to have colleagues from both sides of the chamber. It's lovely to see as well, Greg and his team, Matt, the chair, Andrew Fraser. I know you've done a lot of work with Hear and Say, and of course to the families who have travelled so far to be here today and to share your stories. Thank you so much for being here. And of course to Jamie Lee, who we're just so proud of you, Jamie Lee. You're doing a fantastic job this morning, and you were great on the radio as well. Well done. Yeah. Sort of say a couple of remarks, and that is really this. For me, when I thought about this morning, I thought that how transformative language is, and yet it's still something that a lot of us do take for granted. From the moment that we wake up, our life is full of simple blessings that largely go ignored. For example, before I open my eyes, I'm aware of crickets chirping, I'm aware of bird calls, and sometimes the occasional car driving past in the morning. I take for granted that I can hear my daughters calling out, the sounds of the coffee machine, or our dog barking to be let out. That clatter that makes up our routine are sounds that not every Queenslander gets to experience. And the sense of sound is inextricably linked to the power of speech. Another attribute that we perhaps also take for granted. To imagine a world where it's challenging to express your love, convey your ideas, or share your loss and pain is a world that's really quite difficult to imagine. And yet for 1 in every 1,000 Australian children born each year with hearing loss, it's a future that they do need to think about. Hear and Say is Queensland's leading provider of paediatric audiology and speech pathology services, and I'm really proud that they are based in my electorate of Cooper. Annually, Hear and Say support over 17,500 people, including about 1,600 children with hearing loss. The Queensland Government is a proud supporter of Hear and Say through the relationships with Children's Health Queensland and the Department of Education. Hear and Say have become a crucial partner in the detection and treatment of hearing impairments and loss for Queensland's children. And all parents would be aware, of course, of the universal hearing screening that occurs in our health system, because we know that the earlier that we can detect hearing loss, the more options that families have. As a member of Cooper, I've had the privilege of working really closely with Greg and the team in Ashgrove. Their commitment is inspiring. Anyone that's met the team would know how deeply embedded in the research they are. I always walk out of there with my head spinning, which is sometimes not that difficult to do on an early morning, but it's you're just a wonderful organisation to work with, and I thank you. Really thrilled to be hosting today's event, to welcome the team here to Parliament House, and just want to say how very proud I am of the children and the families that are here. Some have travelled some really big distances to be here, and I think we're going to learn a lot from families this morning, so thank you.
We will now hear from 5 incredible speakers, starting with Jonathan Oakes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonathan Olesk and I'm 12 years old. I have just commenced Year 8 at Morridge College, Ashgrove. When I was 13 days old, my parents were informed that I was profoundly deaf in both ears. My hearing assessment was completed by hear and say. I was born in June. I am told that it was a very cold day and that the assessment took all day, and that it would be my first visit of what would become many, many visits to hear and say over the ensuing years. 8 months into my life journey, I received the gift of bilateral cochlear implants. In the weeks that followed implantation, I had a switch-on party at Hear and Say for which I heard my parents' voice for the very first time. From the very early days of my diagnosis, I was fortunate to attend weekly auditory verbal therapy sessions at Hear and Say. It was during these sessions that I learned to listen and speak. These sessions continued up until I started primary school. The challenges that I face today are very different to the challenges that I faced when I was born. Today's challenges now tend to the centre of every parent's favourite topic, technology. These technological challenges can include the mundane, such as getting caught out and about with flat cochlear batteries, and more complex challenges, such as communicating with people when I need to remove my cochlear processors. For example, when I go swimming at the beach or in our pool, or more recently when I went on the roller coasters at Movie World. It can be a huge responsibility for somebody my age to always keep track of their processors. I learnt this the hard way when my processors disappeared into the Murray River on Christmas Eve in 2019. It was a very quiet Christmas day. Last year, I commenced high school, which I really enjoy. I was very proud to receive an A+ for French and Media Studies. My weekends are busy with sport. This term, I am playing AFL for my school. I also play for the Everton Wolves Football Club. Between school, study and sport, I keep pretty busy. I'd like to study medicine when I finish high school and eventually become an anaesthetist. I know that there is no barrier to becoming anything I want to be in the future. I am grateful to Mum and Dad who have always supported me in every way possible. Parents, teachers, government, not-for-profit and corporate organisations have all played an important role in supporting me on my journey as a child born with a profound bilateral hearing impairment. I'd like to end by taking the opportunity to acknowledge Suncorp Stadium, which have supported my journey and the journey of many other children who have attended Hear and Say. Speaking of Hear and Say, I am so lucky that I became a part of the Hear and Say family 12 years ago.
Hello everyone, my name is Audrey Hawkes. I'm in grade 4 and I have cochlear implants. When I was born deaf. When I was 4 days old, a nurse tested my hearing and found that I couldn't hear properly. First, I got pink hearing aids, but they didn't work very well. Dr. Parker gave me my cochlear implants when I was 10 months old. I started at Hear and Say when I was 3 months old. I went every week for playgroup, and over many years I've been to lots of special AV, speech therapy and audiology appointments. I also did lots of listening practice at home. Mum and Dad said I worked really hard learning to listen and speak. I listened to lots of books and now I love reading. I love my cochlears because I can stream music from Mum's phone and no one knows what I'm listening to. I also love decorating them with colourful stickers and gemstones. There are lots of things I can do because of my cochlear implants. I love dancing, singing in the school choir and talking to my Alexa. I have been in all the school musicals. So far I have been a mummy from ancient Egypt, a pirate, a court jester and an cat. And I can also play the violin and piano, although I should practice more. I also swim, play tennis and I am in a soccer team. I like being able to hear the coach of my team. When I swim, I have aqua covers so I can still hear even underwater. At school, I like knowing what everyone is saying. My favourite subject is literacy. My teachers wear a microphone, we call it Roger, so I can hear them clearly when they talk. I love playing hide and seek, red light, green light, pop-up tiggy and tag. During COVID, I would talk with my friends on video calls. I am glad I can hear them clearly. Dad says I am such a chatterbox. I also like being able to take my ears off when I sleep so nothing wakes me up, even thunderstorms or when our neighbours have late night parties. Plus, I can read at night and I can't hear Mum and Dad telling me to go to sleep. There isn't very much I can't do because of my hearing loss. When I grow up, I think I'd like to be a writer and an illustrator. There have been lots of people who have helped me, including my mum, my dad, my little sister, my grandparents, my teachers, Dr. Parker, and especially all the people at Hear and Say. I'm excited to see what I can do next. Thank you for inviting me to talk today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily and I am 10 years old. I live on a sheep and cattle property near Aramac, a small country town in central West Queensland. I was born with a hearing loss and when I was 4 months old, I got pretty pink hearing aids. When I was nearly 2, I had my first cochlear implant surgery, and my second year was done when I was 8 years old. Hear and Say have helped me with my speech via Zoom sessions for the past 6 years. As we live 1,200 kilometres from Brisbane or 570 kilometres from Townsville, it is always a big trip to get to my hearing appointments. My mum, dad, Grammy, Poppy, Ma and Pa always help me to get to these hearing appointments. I feel very lucky to have such a caring family. Hear and Say are always so helpful as well, and I have become very good friends with so many wonderful people who work there. I live with my mum, dad, 2 younger sisters and a younger brother. I love helping my dad do things on the farm like fencing, mushing on my motorbike and shearing the sheep. Other things I like are horse riding, crochet, listening to music and cooking. I am in year 5 at Aramac State School and I travel on the school bus every morning and afternoon. This is so much fun because my grandma is the bus driver. My favourite subject is English because I like writing big stories. There is a total of 62 students who go to Aramac State School from kindy to year 10. Although small, we aim for big things and everyone always looks out for each other. I also love sports like soccer, swimming and athletics. When I grow up, I want to be a hairdresser and have my own farm with horses, cattle, sheep and goats. Thank you for listening. Hello, my name is Charlie Davis and I'm 8 years old in Year 3 at St Joseph's Barden. 2 years ago in the school holidays before I started Year 1, I was playing with my friends at home. I was climbing up a tree over our driveway. I love climbing and I'm a good climber. When I was coming down, the branch I was standing on snapped and I fell 2.5 metres onto our driveway. I landed on the back of my head. I fractured my skull on the left side. I lost my balance on the left side and my facial nerve was hurt. I couldn't shut my left eye or the left part of my mouth. I also broke 3 bones in my left ear and this stopped my ear working. I was 6 years old. After my accident, I have learnt to sit and walk again, but I have also learnt to hear again. I was lucky because with the help of Hear and Say, my school, St Joseph's, already had hearing technology in the classroom. I tried wearing some hearing devices to see if they helped me listen at school. At the end of Year 1, I asked Mum if I could keep my crossover so I could hear my friends better. This is when I met Sharon from Hear and Say. Hear and Say helped me to get my cochlear implant. I had my surgery at the end of Year 1. I chose to wear a Kanzo. I first heard sounds through my cochlea 11 months after I fell out of the tree. I had lots of fun listening lessons at Hear and Say and played lots of fun listening games on my iPad. The iPad connects directly to my cochlea. After 3 months, I could hear and understand everything through my cochlea. It is hard to hear when I don't have my cochlea in class. My teachers connect to my cochlea with a mini mic and I hear their voice through it. This makes everything louder and school easier. I can't play tackle rugby anymore, but I love school. I love reading, swimming and playing cricket and soccer. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I can do anything.
Wow, I hope everyone has packed tissues with you. Ooh, it was very special to hear 5 different stories shared so confidently. Thank you. I now invite Julianne Gilbert, MP, Assistant Minister for Health and Regional Health Infrastructure, followed by Rob Moek, Assistant Shadow Minister for Families, Seniors, Mental Health and Drug and Alcohol Treatment to speak.
Oh, good morning, everyone. And wasn't that just so inspiring? What a great way to start the morning. So thank you all for being here. I'd like to acknowledge all of my parliamentary colleagues from both sides of Parliament and also the ministers who are here today. Minister Grace, she was here, so she has been listening to the stories, and I know how proud she would be of the students. And also, Mr. Speaker, thank you for coming along this morning. Thank you to the team at Hear and Say for organising this morning. It has just been so special. Thank you to the families of the wonderful children who have presented here this morning. I got an opportunity to speak to some of the children before we started this morning and they are just so delightful. So hopefully I'll catch up with all of you before you go today. I would like to start by acknowledging and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the country that we are meeting here today, the Turrbal and the Yuggera peoples. Thank you for joining us here today, and it's my privilege to be able to welcome you all here to Parliament House to celebrate with these children who are profoundly deaf And they are becoming such powerful speakers and just wonderful presenters. And thank you to Audrey, Charlie, Emily, Jonathan and Cassidy for sharing your inspiring stories with us this morning. And they were certainly inspiring. And I know that Audrey's been here before, and I think she was practising to be the Premier today. She's had because she's been such a great communicator. For more than 15 years, the Queensland Government has proudly partnered with Hear and Say to help Queensland children and young people with moderate and greater hearing loss reach their full potential. And I can see that our young people here today really are going to reach their full potential. Thankfully, the prognosis for children born deaf has radically improved since the introduction of cochlear implants in the late 1980s. And as we've seen today, the ability of children with hearing loss to communicate and to be understood for who they are is remarkable, and it's a truly modern miracle. And thanks to partnerships between Hear and Say and the Queensland Children's Hospital Hearing Implant Team, more than 200 children with severe or profound hearing loss have received a cochlear implant since 2005. And many of these children can now hear clearly and develop listening and speech skills on par with their siblings and friends. And it's a wonderful example of what we can achieve together through shared care and collaboration. We know that hearing loss, if left undetected, greatly impacts education outcomes and the long-term trajectory of children and young people, which is why hearing and screening early intervention is critical. And back in my days when I was in the classroom, which is some years ago now, I was just seeing what these young children are being able to achieve. I just think, oh, I wish I had those opportunities were there for those children back in those days. Very bright children who could have done even better with their cochlear implants. Since Children's Health Queensland Healthy Hearing Program was introduced in 2004, all babies born in private and public hearing hospitals across Queensland have had access to free newborn hearing screens. Over 1 million Queensland babies have benefited from the service in the past 17 years, with hearing loss detected in over 2,700. As part of the partnership of the Healthy Hearing Program, each year Hear and Say provides early intervention therapy to 250 deaf or hearing impaired children from 2 to 6 years. And once children are in school, Hear and Say also provide vital hearing screening to students. And if an issue is detected, families are offered a referral to Children's Health Queensland local community hearing screening clinics. These clinics provide an important pathway to diagnostic centres and ENT services at local hospitals. I'm pleased we're further building on these partnerships, and in coming months there will be trialling services which will see Hear and Say audiologists to fly into Harvey Bay and Maryborough regions to provide diagnostic services to families. And this means that families who normally travel up to 3 hours to the Sunshine Coast can receive their diagnostic in their local communities. As a health system, we're faced with many challenges over recent years in responding to the COVID pandemic. While most services are looking at ways to quickly adapt to challenges of pandemic, Hear and Say are already well positioned to leverage existing telehealth services to ensure that families continue to receive safe and timely care closer to home. And there's quite a few regional members of Parliament here today, and that's really important for our communities. This provided very successful in speech pathology, as we have heard today in the case of Emily, who spoke so well. And we're looking forward to coming out to your farm, Emily, when you get it up and running. I want to thank you here and say for the critical role that you are playing in supporting Queensland children and our young people with hearing loss. Through this support and dedication of families such as those that we've got here with us today, these children will be able to live a life unencumbered by disability. They will be understood for who they truly are, which is all that we can ask of the world. As a government, we are proud to be supporting this life-changing work and all the outcomes this collaboration has achieved. Congratulations again to the children this morning. You were just delightful and really inspiring. You did an amazing job, and I'm pleased that you shared your stories with us and with your families. And coming here to talk to us has just been a wonderful experience for all of us. So thank you for taking your time and coming to help us in the start of our Parliament year. And what a great way to start our Parliament year, from hearing from our next leaders of Queensland. So on behalf of the Palaszczuk Government and from the Minister for Health, who couldn't be here this morning, and she sends her apologies, I want to express my sincere gratitude for all of your outstanding efforts. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the privilege of being able to join you and for the time and trouble you've all taken to come to Parliament and share some of your stories and experiences with us. It's incredibly humbling to be here and to hear some of those stories and the journeys that many of you have travelled. I too want to add to the comments of others, an acknowledgement of my colleagues that are here today and some of the ministers. But I also want to suggest that perhaps some of us are under threat. I think perhaps the member for Gregory should be a little bit concerned about Emily's ambitions. And I saw Lachlan here somewhere in the room. And Jonty, I'm not sure that your seat's going to be too safe in the future either, with the aspirations of, I think it was Charlie, and I think you've actually got two potential threats in your electorate. And I think Steve Minikin might also have cause to be a little bit concerned in the future. Jonathan, what an amazing speech. I just sat there thinking, gosh, there are colleagues in the Parliament that don't speak as well as that. And for someone who's only 12 years old, well done. And also to Audrey and to Charlie and Emily. I know I have adult friends that wouldn't have the courage to stand up and speak in a room like this, or any room for that matter. So good on all of you for your contributions this morning. And Charlie, you're right, you can be anything you want to be. Where's Charlie? Over there sitting with the member for Mermaid. I never knew what I wanted to be either when I was your age. Something a lot of people don't know about me is that as a child I wore calipers. So I was a bit of a Forrest Gump in the school playground, and would often fall over or get pushed over and get laughed at. I have to say, I think sometimes those experiences make us stronger. And I suspect that one of the reasons that I've been able to rise to a role as a Member of Parliament and push through some of the challenges of life is because I was brought up tough. And I'm sure I think perhaps Anastasia's got a lot to fear from you. You may well end up being Premier one day. But I particularly just wanted to pass on greetings of my leader, David Crisafulli, who was sorry he couldn't be here today, but he did ask me to pass on his best wishes and congratulations. I particularly also wanted just to acknowledge the work of Dimity Dornan. 30 years I note that we forgot to put OAM on the end of your name tag this morning. And I'm a little bit sad that we no longer use the titles of Sir and Lady in Australia, because I think New Zealand still do. They have a lot of ma'ams in New Zealand, and every now and then you'll meet one at a function, and I think it's a wonderful acknowledgement of the service and contribution that people make. So I think we should all just start calling you Lady Dimity from now on. But thank you for your hard work and contribution over many years. You've changed a lot of lives, and I think for that all of us should be incredibly grateful. So, and I think we should give you a round of applause for that. On that note, I will close. I did particularly want to acknowledge the presence of the Speaker, because he's kind of the boss of the House, and we need to well, behave, that's the word. And it's good to see that all of our other speakers this morning have behaved well. Thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you, Julianne and Rob. I now invite the Speaker, Curtis Pitt MP, to the stage to present each of children and young adults with a token of thanks.
Whilst our amazing young speakers are coming up, I just want to firstly acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of Aboriginal people and pay my respects to elders past and present. Thank them as custodians of our land over countless generations, and remind all of us that we're very fortunate in this country to have two of the world's oldest continuing living cultures in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, whose lands, winds and waters we all now share. Very quickly, I won't speak at length because everyone has already said everything that probably needs to be said. But there are some times in my role in the House, as Rob very articulately put, that the behaviour is not fantastic. And there are some times I wish I couldn't hear some of the things that are being said. But hearing our young speakers this morning has reminded me, and I think Jonty articulated this quite well, the things you take for granted, the little things. It's the friends that you hear. It's the sound of your dog or your cat, or it's the little things that make our lives richer through the power of hearing. And that's only half of the equation. The hearing is one part, and it's obviously a very important part. But the other part is the communication, and I couldn't be more proud of the young people we've heard from today. Quite correct. They not only are they articulate, but confident, and basically able to aspire to dream big and do anything that they like. And that's an enormously powerful thing, and it's a wonderful. It's wonderful to say that Hear and Say has played such a big role in making those young people's futures something that they can make basically anything of their lives. And I think that's an extraordinarily powerful thing. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you all for coming this morning, and welcome to the People's House. Can I ask that Jonathan please come forward? Where's Audrey? Oh, here she is. Emily. Charlie, come forward.
Thank you, Curtis. This concludes the formalities for this morning inaugural Queensland Power of Speech. Thank you to everyone who has taken time to join us here today. Members of Parliament, ministers, stakeholders, supporters, and our children and families. We will be taking a few photos on the stage now. Tea and coffee will be served in the next half an hour in the foyer. Thank you.